Hey guys, it's Mrs. Tucker. This is a video to go with your review that you received for the Pythagorean theorem test that we're going to have tomorrow. So you should have this review. It says review Pythagorean theorem and irrational numbers, and it says chapter 3 from your textbook. We don't really use the textbook anymore. Let's start with number 1. What is the perimeter of the square shown below? Guys, you're going to see a lot of them asking what's the perimeter, what's the distance all the way around on the STAR test, because it just adds one more step to what you're doing. Well, perimeter is this side plus this side plus this side plus this side. And since it's a square, these tick marks mean all the side lengths are congruent. Well, I need to know the side length. I need to know the side length so that I can either add them up or multiply by 4 to get the perimeter. And I'm going to write this out here so I remember I'm not just calculating side length, I need the perimeter. All right, do you guys see the units right here? It says inches squared. If you have inches squared, if you have centimeters squared, if you have miles squared, if you have any units that have been squared, you know they just gave you the area. All right, if I have a square, I know that the side times side will give me area for the square. Well, and the area is 289, so let's plug that in for area. I need to know what number times itself gives me 289. Can you think of what that is? Is it 17 times 17? Let's see, that is 49, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 7 and 1. That's 289. Yep. So my side length is 17 inches, because this is inches squared, but that doesn't answer the question. The question was, what is the perimeter? The perimeter is going to be 17 plus 17 plus 17 plus 17, or you're going to take 17 and multiply by what? Yeah. So that will get you the answer on this one. Okay, did you notice there's an answer bank? As you're working these, I want you to cross your answers off on the answer bank. Pause the video anytime you need to. Number 2, the figure below shows a right triangle with 3 adjacent sides. Here's your right triangle, 3 adjacent sides that have been made into squares. Which of the following statements is true of the areas of the squares? Well, with Pythagorean theorem, what you guys originally learned was the area of the small square plus the area of the medium-sized square should equal what? Yep, these two added together should give you the area of the big square. So I know looking at this, they labeled this 1 plus 3 equals 2. Which one of those are you going to pick? 1 plus 3 equals 2. Did you get it? Okay, check your answer bank. Number 3, which point best represents the square root of 81? Well, the square root of 81 is 9, so it's going to be point H. But I'm thinking on your test, you're probably going to have something like that. And let's say this is 8, 9, and 10. That's the square root of 100. That's the square root of 81. That's the square root of 64. And they're probably going to ask you which point best represents the square root of, I don't know, 68. Okay? Well, you just draw a little number line if they haven't given you one. Square root of 68 is going to fall, I skipped 7, didn't I? Oops, 7's on the other side. 7's over here. That's the square root of 49. Square root of 68 is going to fall somewhere in here, so you know whatever point falls in there, that's what we're looking for. Okay? Number 4, in the triangle below, what's the approximate length of side AB? I have a right triangle, so if I have a right triangle, I know Pythagorean theorem applies. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. The most important side to label correctly when using Pythagorean theorem is side C. It's always your longest side, called the hypotenuse. It's always opposite your 90-degree angle, so that's your C. Plug in the numbers you have. 4 squared plus 9 squared. We're going to call that A, and this one B. It doesn't matter which is A or B, but C is the important side. Now we're going to square them. 4 times 4 is 16. 9 times 9 is 81. That's your c squared. The next step is to add these two together. So we get 97. So c is the square root of 97, which is just shy of the square root of 100, which is 10. So this is just going to be a little bit less than 10. So I know the side length has to be what? Yeah, between 9 and 10. Number 5, what is the side length of the medium square? I want to know this right here. Okay, look at the units they gave you here. This is inches, so that's the side length. That's this side right here. Look at this. They gave you square inches here. That is the area of this whole square. But I want to know the side length right here. I need to know what number times itself gives me 169. Well, if you want to know what that side length is, you take the square root of 169 and you get what? Okay, so I know this side here is 13. I know this side here is 5. You can get this side length now by using what? Right here, that side length right there. Yeah, we're going to use Pythagorean theorem because I have a right triangle. This side is your C. Call this one A, and this could be B. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Substitute in your numbers. Go ahead and square them. B squared makes up the difference between 169 and 25. So B squared is 169 subtract 25, which gives you 144. What number times itself gives you 144? Yeah, that's going to be 12, and what's our units? Now let's see if that answers the question. The question was, what's the side length of the medium square? Yep, the side length equals 12 inches. Is it in your answer bank? Number 6, to go to school from her house, Maria's school bus drives up Oak Drive and then turns right on Main Street. Maria's bus drives 4 blocks up Oak Drive and 2 blocks on Main Street. How far does the bus drive her to school? Well, that's easy. 6 blocks. Okay? Now, when Maria walks to school, she follows a straight path represented on the mark by the red dashes. When she walks to school, she goes straight this way. The path goes directly from Maria's house to her school, and the path forms a right angle to Main Street. There's your right angle. So if I redraw it, it looks something like this. This is 4, this is 2, and here's the path she takes. What is the distance that Maria walks on the path to school, round to the nearest tenth if necessary? Okay, well, it is a right triangle, so we're going to use Pythagorean theorem. The most important side to label correctly is C. That's always your longest side. It's the side opposite that 90-degree angle, so 4 goes in here. We'll call this side A. Let's square these two numbers. Oops, 4 times 4? Yep, 16. B squared makes up the difference between those two. So B squared is going to be 16 subtract 4. That gives you 12. So B is going to be the square root of 12. What number times itself gives you 12? Let's see here. 2 times 2 is 4. So another name for 2 is 4 squared. 3 times 3 is 9, so another name for 3 is 9. The square root of 9, the square root of 4. Sorry, I think I misspoke there. 4 times 4 is 16, so another name for 4 is 16 squared. And 12 falls in between these two here. Let's see, halfway is 3 1/2. 12 is 3 away from 9, but 4 away from 16, so the square root of 12 is somewhere in here. My guess, 3.4 times 3.4. They want it to the nearest tenth, so we're going to check it out by hand. That's 12, 13. Put in a 0 there. That's 12, 9, 10. Add those up with 2 decimal places. Pretty close to 12. What's your next guess? Not quite 12, it's 11.66. The next one you're going to try is 3.5 times 3.5. When you get the answer, compare how close that number is to 12.00 and pick whichever is the closest. It's either going to be 3.4 blocks or 3.5 blocks. You finish this out right here and you tell me which one's closer. Number 7, if the perimeter of the smallest square is 20 centimeters, this plus this plus this plus this equals 20, and the perimeter of the largest square is 52, this plus this plus this plus this is 52. They want to know what's the perimeter of the medium-sized square. Okay, so what we're going to do, we are going to have to use Pythagorean theorem to figure out what this side length is so that we can calculate its perimeter, okay? To do that, I need to know this side length and I need to know this side length. I can calculate this side length because I know the perimeter and all 4 of these sides is the same size. So to find the side length, what do I do to 20? Yeah, my side length is going to be 20 divided by 4, which is what? That's the side length here. Yep, that's 5. Okay, I know the perimeter all the way around this one is 52. So to find its side length, what do you do with your perimeter? Side length equals 52 divided by what? 4, yeah, because they gave us perimeter. You would never do this with the area. Let's see, that goes in there once. That's 13. So this side length here is 13. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. That's your C. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Plug in what you know. Let's call this side B. 5 squared plus your B squared equals your C squared. Square those two numbers. B squared makes up the difference between 169 and 25, so we are going to subtract to get our B squared, and that gives us 144. So B has to be the square root of 144, which is what? 12 centimeters. This is 12 centimeters, this is 12 centimeters, that's 12 centimeters, this is 12 centimeters. They want to know what's the perimeter of the medium-sized square. How do you get the perimeter of the medium-sized square if you know one side is 12? That's right. All right, let's do number 8. What is the perimeter of a square dog pen with an area of 9 square yards? They didn't give us a square, but you can draw your own. Hope that comes out square. There we go. They tell us it has an area of 9 square yards. I first need the side length in order to get the perimeter. Side times side gives me area. So side squared equals my area of 9. I know that's 9. I know 9 is the area because yards squared is a measure of area, square yards. So I know the side length is the square root of 9, which is what? Yep, it's 3, but they want the perimeter. I need 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, or you're going to take 3 and multiply by what? Yes, and your units are going to be in yards. What'd you get? Well, good, so did I. Okay, a design engineer calculates. All right, let's try this one again. A design engineer calculates the distance between two bolts to be the square root of 28 inches. Between which two integers does this length lie on a number line? You know, they didn't give you a number line, so you should draw a what? Yeah, a number line. So here's my number line, and I'm using all of these numbers that they gave me in the answers. Now, I know that 2 is the square root of 4, 3 is the square root of 9, 4 is the square root of 16, 5 is the square root of 25, 6 is the square root of 36, and they gave me the square root of 28. Well, where does the square root of 28 fall on this number line? Yeah, somewhere in here, so it falls between what two integers? Pretty simple. Number 10, I want to know the square root of 16 over 169. What numerator times itself gives you 16? Yeah, that'd be 4 times 4. 4 times 4, tops times tops, gives you the 16. What number times itself down here gives you 169? You guys should memorize this one. 12 times 12 is 144, so it's going to be what? Yeah, 13 times 13 is 169. So if I erase all of this, there's my answer. And to be real honest, plus or minus 4 over 13, because negative 4 over 13 times negative 4 over 13 also gives you 16 over 169. Number 11, the diagram shows the side view of a support bracket used with a shelf. What is the approximate length of the support rod? Well, they're wanting this distance right here. Here's a right angle, so I know that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The most important side to label correctly is your c. It's the longest side. It's the side opposite that 90-degree angle, so this is c. So that's what we're trying to calculate. You can call this a, you can call this b. Plug in what you know and calculate what you don't. 14 times 14, 20 times 20, add it together. I need to know what number times itself gives me 596. C is going to be the square root of 596. I'm going to leave that up to you to decide what that length is. And your unit will be in inches. Okay, let's take a look at number 12. It says a 26-foot rope is used to brace a tent pole at the, I think I cut it off. The rope is anchored 10 feet from the base of the pole. So this right here is 10. 26 feet is the length of the rope. They want to know, I'm guessing they want to know what the height of the tent pole is. I kind of cut that off, didn't I? All right, so we know that a squared plus b squared equals c squared applies to all right triangles. I need to label all of my pieces. The most important side to label correctly is C. If that's my 90-degree angle, then I know opposite, this has to be C. So C is 26. We can call this A if you'd like, and we could call this B. Let's square those numbers and see what we get. I'm thinking that was, you know what, I don't have that one memorized. 26 times 26, that is 676. So a squared makes up the difference between the answer and 100. So a squared is going to be 676 subtract 100. That's 576. So a is going to be the square root of 576. You guys know what the square root of 576 is? I do. You guys figure that out, and your answer is going to be in feet. Okay? All right, Nat will answer your question. What's the height of the pole? 13, Mrs. Tucker writes 4 irrational numbers on the board and asks one of her 8th grade students to choose the number that is closest to her age, i.e. Mrs. Tucker's age. Which of these irrational numbers did the student most likely choose? Well, pi is 3.14, and I can tell you, I am not 3 years old. It's not that one. What is the square root of 269? Take the square root of 269 and you get something around approximately equal to 16.4. I am not 16 years old. Next, what's the approximate square root of 324? Well, actually, that's an exact because that's a perfect square. That's 18. I am not 18 years old. So by default, it has to be D.
Andy Conyers, if you're in the building, come to D200. Andy Conyers, if you're in the building, come to D200.
Well, sorry about that. Yeah, if you take the square root of this one, that equals 39. Yes, I am about 39 years old. So there you go. Yeah, this would most likely be the one that student chose. Okay. Number 14, what is the area of the smallest square? Well, the area of the smallest square plus the area of the medium square, add those together and you get the area of the biggest square. All right, that's what Pythagorean theorem says. Well, look at my units here. I have 144 square inches, or inches squared. This is just 13 inches. All right, if you're talking distance like a side length could be considered a distance. You're talking inches, you're talking centimeters, you're talking kilometers, you're talking yards. But if you're talking area, your units all of a sudden become squared. Inches squared, centimeters squared, kilometers squared, yards squared. This one right here is area, but this one right here is just side length. So in order to get the area of this one, what do I have to do with the side length? Yeah, take 13 times 13 and you get what? Okay, now the area of the small one plus the area of the medium-sized one, medium-sized square, gives you the area of the biggest square if when you put these vertices together at these 3 points, you form a right triangle on the inside. Okay? So how are you going to get the area of the smallest square? Yeah, it makes up the difference between these two numbers. So your area of your smallest is going to be 169, subtract 144, and what's the units on the area going to be? Yeah, that'll be in inches squared. All right. 15. Is a triangle with side lengths of 18, 24, and 30 a right triangle? Prove it. And you're going to do the same thing on 16. Okay, well, if you have a right triangle, here's my right triangle. C is always the longest side. Okay, so this right here would be C. Down here, this one right here would be C. C is always the longest side. If it's a right triangle, then we know this is true. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay? So let's call this A and let's call this B, and you're just going to test it out. You take 18 and square it. You add it to 24 and square it. Well, take 18 and square it. Take 24 and square it. Add those two answers together. Does that equal 30 squared? If it does, if yes, if these two squared and added together equals this one here, which is going to be 900, if yes, then it is a right triangle. But if this doesn't add up to 900, then it's not. And I'm guessing since there's two of these, one will be yes and one will be no. Use this as your A, this is your B, and this is your C, and you test it out. Test it out using this. Okay? Okay, this next set of questions from here to the end of the review is just a little star review, okay? It's not going to be on the Pythagorean theorem test, but it is good to review this stuff for the star test, okay? So 17 says, what's the value of all of this? Well, this is an orders of operation question, okay? So let's look at our parentheses first, all right? Those brackets are a set of parentheses, and inside the brackets, I see another set of parentheses. So we're going to take 9 and divide by 3 first. So inside here we get 3. Now still inside these brackets, I have 4 subtract 3, which is what? Yeah, that becomes 1. And do you notice how 2 is on the outside of the brackets? That means take 2 and multiply by whatever's inside the brackets, and then add 5 to it. Now you're down to multiplication and addition, so let's multiply next. And the last step is to add. Nice little review of orders of operation. 16. Tim has 10 less dollars than Connie. Together they have 25. Which equation can be used to solve for C, the amount that Connie has? Okay, I don't know what Connie has, so I'm going to call that C. I know when they say together they have 25, so if I have Tim's money plus Connie's money, together they have 25. Together means you're adding, all right? Well, here's Connie. Tim has 10 less than Connie. So in place of T, I could say, well, T is the same as the amount that Connie has minus 10, right? Remember I had the T right here? Tim has 10 less than Connie. That's Connie's amount minus 10. So in place of the T right here, I'm going to substitute this. So let's take out the T. Let's put in C minus 10 for Tim. Now, which one of those equations looks something like what we wrote? We need it to equal 25. Okay, so I know it's not that one or that one. Take a look at these. Which one looks like what we have here? Yeah, it's got to be that one. With this amount being Tim, he has 10 less than Connie, plus what Connie has equals 25. 19. Miss Nelson constructed a Venn diagram that shows the number of 8th grade athletes who play football, baseball, and soccer. Which phrase best identifies the number 4 shown in the diagram? That one right there. Do you see how 4 falls in the overlap of that circle and that circle? But it's not included in, it's not part of this circle, okay? A says the total number of athletes who play baseball and football, but not soccer. This guy there's 4 people that play football and they play soccer, but not baseball. It's not this one. The total number of athletes that play all 3 sports. No. Total number of athletes that play all 3 sports is that one right there. The overlap of all 3 circles, so it's not this one. The total number of athletes who do not play soccer. The total number of athletes that do not play soccer is everybody outside that circle. That would be this plus this plus this. Those people don't play soccer, so it's not C. Okay? The total number of athletes who play both soccer and football, but not baseball. Yep, that's the answer. That's the answer. All right, running a little short on time. How do you write this number in scientific notation? Well, it's a small number, so I know the exponent on 10 is going to be negative. I'm going to park my decimal point there and count how far I moved it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Double check to make sure I counted right. 21, a gift basket contains, let me back this up a minute, got a little ahead of myself. A gift basket contains 2 2/3 ounces of chocolate candy, 4 1/2 ounces of hard candy, and 4 ounces of dried fruit. What's the total weight of the contents of the basket? You're adding them all up, you need to have common denominators.